The following is meant for entertainment and educational purposes. It is not meant to establish a doctor-patient relationship. Please consult your mental health provider for your mental health needs. Hello, welcome to Chez Eric, where we talk about psychiatry and religion with a focus on how to apply it to your life. My name is Dr. Eric, and I'm a psychiatrist who happens to be religious, and we are going through the William James series on the varieties of religious experience. And this is going to be lecture 19, the second to last lecture, called Other Characteristics. That's how he titles it. And so what is other characteristics all about? Well, William James wants to go over other characteristics because he spent the whole entire 18 lectures talking about the bulk of what he was trying to do. And now what he's doing is cleaning it up to talk about a couple of things that he didn't get a chance to talk about. And then he's going to have some closing remarks at the end. So my hope is that by the time we get to the end, we'll be done, but we're almost there. This will be about 3 parts, so not too long, not too short. And so again, William James wants to go through other characteristics. The other characteristics he wants to talk about are aesthetics, sacrifice, confession, prayer, and the subconscious. So let's kind of get into it. So far, what we've established from James' perspective is that the best truths of religion are the uses of religion, the uses of for the individual who has religion, the uses of the individual to the world. Okay, and what he means by this is that religion is supposed to be useful. It's supposed to be something that that the individual can use to have benefits to themselves, and then in those benefits, it benefits the world. So saintliness has a lot of charity and kindness. The charity and kindness then benefits society because it allows society to function and continue moving onward. And what is true is simply that which works well. So after we've made that framework, James wanted to again highlight a couple of things, the 5 things I mentioned. And so today we'll be talking about aesthetics, we'll be talking about sacrifice and confession. When we come to aesthetics, he's talking about beauty, right? And that there is this element of beauty when it comes to religion. And a lot of times this concept of beauty weighs in on a person's determination of what religion they want to have. And when I talk about beauty, I'm not talking about some abstract concept. I'm talking about actual, a beautiful space, a beautiful painting, a beautiful architecture. These are things that when people walk in this beautiful space, they feel the awe and presence of God, of a divinity. And, some people want sort of a richness in that space. They want that intellectual rigor, this sort of an inner need for something institutional and very complex. They want the institutions. I know we spent a lot of time kind of poo-pooing institutions and how bad they get, but part of that religious sort of need is this idea of something beautiful, this big, beautiful, again, cathedral, this interlocking hierarchy of who follows whom, something very majestic, something bigger than themselves. And when they feel this great presence among what we call, let's say, the church, right? It's surrounded by a vast display of work and jewelry, right? And this is, very similar to, I would say, patriotism in ancient societies. And then he compares, Protestantism to Catholicism. But if you don't mind, I'd rather not get into that. So that's a concept that he wanted to talk about as it relates to the religious experience, that there are some people who really want, again, richness, a vast history, this big sort of complex organizational structure, this institution, this great sort of beauty, aesthetics, that's what he calls it. Then he talks about sacrifice and confession. And he also talks about prayer, but prayer will need to be talked about in the next lecture. But when it comes to sacrifice, what we find is that in part of the religious experience, there's a capacity to sacrifice that's perhaps, greater than if one were not religious. And sacrifice is everywhere in worshiping God. We sacrifice the food we eat. We sacrifice a tithing. We sacrifice, things of this world that's not supposed to mean a lot to us for something greater, for our God. And you don't have to sacrifice just money or things. You can sacrifice your time. You can sacrifice your attention. You're supposed to devote something to this greater being. In the past, it used to be, say, burnt offerings or animal blood, right? But nowadays, we seek for something more spiritual, like time and like sort of your attention and your focus. And so this concept of sacrifice is greatly detailed in previous discussions about asceticism, which we've spoken about a bajillions of times, and Willie James really loves that topic to talk about it, so we're not going to be talking about it anymore here. And finally, the third thing is confession. Confession is the inward and moral stage of sentiment, of how you feel. It's part of the general system of purging and cleansing yourself, the need to be pure and clean in front of God. And when there's a confession, all the lies are done, right? And you can face your reality. You can face, God as you are. And the rottenness, instead of being hidden, is now on the outside. And then you now get rid of a hypocritical show of virtue. And the history of confession it's hard to pin down. And there's a controversy over whether confession needs to be an internal dialogue with God or something you have to confess to a priest. But still, in many religious sort of dynamics, confession is a very, very large part of the religious pursuit or the religious experience that, William James, I guess, couldn't fit into the main topics of what he wanted to talk about. So those are the two, and we're going to talk about prayer next, and then the one after that will be about the relationship of religion to the subconscious. So I hope you enjoyed it. Do like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you next time. Hey, sign up for my weekly newsletter. I send out emails every week on psychiatry and religion. I realize that email is a great way to go deep into these topics. So if you want more content, check out chesericpurl.com and subscribe over there. Thanks.